What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. I hope that everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday night. So this is day 2 of the testimony in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend of a decade, is taking the stand today. She'll also be taking the stand tomorrow, which, listen, I hope that they can, wrap this up quickly, because she's in her third trimester. I believe she's 8 months pregnant. And so I hope that they don't grill her too hard. As we see here, the sketch artist, they drew her crying. And then that bottom picture with him giving the heart. Now, allegedly, that's to his family, and I hope that that's true. I hope that he didn't do that to Cassie, trying to intimidate her. I was informed that when she did walk in the courtroom, that he looked her up and down, because I'm following a few people, like Megan Cuniff and others, who are actually in the courtroom. So they're not able to, have it filmed, although the judge is considering it, this is such a huge media case, similar to the O.J. Simpson trial. So if they do allow a few people in the courtroom, I'll be following them as well. So let's go ahead and get into the CNN article. They give a recap of her testimony today. So it says Cassie Ventura detailed alleged freak-offs and relationship with Combs to the jury. Then this is a recap of her testimony. So Cassie Ventura, Sean Diddy Combs' former girlfriend, some of her testimony and the details of it are graphic. Combs has pled not guilty to charges including racketeering, conspiracy, trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Here's what she said in her direct examination today. Early stages of their relationship. So Ventura testified that their relationship started platonically when she was signed to Bad Boy Records in 2006. She was 19 years old at the time, and she later told the court that she was really confused the first time that Combs kissed her while celebrating her 21st birthday in Las Vegas. She described him as, quote, a fun guy who also happened to have my career in his hands, saying that he called all the shots when she was younger. Ventura said that some of their arguments would be violent and result in some sort of physical harm. She said, quote, he would smash me in my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head if I was down. She said, Combs experienced mood swings, and if she didn't answer her phone, he said that he would call her incessantly or send staff to find her, Ventura testified. The beginning of their intimate encounters in the first years of their relationship, Ventura said that Combs proposed this intimate encounter that he called voyeurism, where he would watch me be in the middle of being intimate with another man, which shocked her. She said that she didn't feel like she could refuse him, adding that Combs controlled a lot of her life. Description of the freak-off, she said when she was about 22 years old, that's when Combs first asked her to have a freak-off. Ventura agreed because she wanted to make him happy. She'd stay awake for days at a time without sleep against her will, she testified, and then Combs would decide when the encounters would end. Combs also directed every detail of the freak-off, and they often followed a similar pattern, she said. Ventura said that she felt like the freak-offs were the only times that she could get with Combs. She says, quote, I felt disgusting. I was humiliated. I don't have the words to put together at the time how horrible I really felt, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it. She said she took illegal substances to disassociate from the experience. She said that Combs was very involved in her physical appearance and had specific instructions of Ventura's clothing and nails for the freak-offs. She testified that if he disapproved of her, Combs' staff would take away her belongings. She told the jury how, at times, Combs himself would urinate on her or demand an escort to do so. Ventura testified that she didn't want anyone to urinate on her, adding that she felt humiliated. You guys remember when all this first came out and we learned about the white nails? That's what she's talking about here. Excuse me. When booking hotel rooms or dancers, Combs and Ventura used aliases. Other times, Combs' staff would make arrangements, she said. Ventura also testified that Combs tasked her with finding escorts. Combs had very specific physical requirements and had to approve of the escorts, adding that he wanted her to check if the person was a cop. She said that some escorts participated in the freak-offs in multiple states and that she or a travel agent for Combs would help coordinate their travel. Ventura described the altercation between her and Combs in the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016 that was caught on the security camera, which the jury had already seen several times. She said it started when she tried to leave a freak off before it was over. Combs hit her and she ran out as fast as she could. So that was just a recap of her testimony. And I will say this, that I'm so glad that she was able to get away. I'm really glad that, it's unfortunate that they have that video surveillance, but I'm glad that the public was able to see the video and to see that concrete evidence so that Diddy couldn't lie and, be dismissive of the harm that he caused Cassie over a decade of her life. She will continue her testimony tomorrow, as prosecutor Emily Johnson said that she needs at least half a day to finish her direct examination. The parties will meet in court at 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow before bringing in the jury at 9:30. Defense attorney Anna Estavio is expected to cross-examine Ventura. Again, listen, regardless of what you may think of Cassie, I feel like it's so courageous that she is willing to go up on the stand in her third trimester, being as vulnerable as she is and reliving this horror that she experienced for a whole decade of her life. I mean, she gave this man essentially her youth. You know how, like, you hear older women and they're like, I gave you the best years of my life. Like, I would be pissed off if I was Cassie. 30 million is not enough, in my opinion. But I am glad that she did get that. I'm glad that, Diddy, he knew what he did. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why he paid, such a substantial amount of money so quickly, within 24 hours. My heart just goes out to her, because she was on the stand, she was crying, and, she didn't want to, have to do these horrible things with someone that she knows didn't love her. So Douglas Wigdor, who is Cassie Ventura's attorney, said that he was super proud of his client as he left the New York City courthouse today. Ventura took the stand most of the day today, testifying about more than a decade-long relationship with Sean Diddy Combs, the freak-offs, and alleged harm. He says, this is her attorney, "It was a long day. I'm super proud of her. Still," he said, "it's not up for me to decide how Ventura did on the stand. It's up to the jury to decide. But we're very confident. I anticipate another half day of direct and probably another half day or so of cross-examination. She's been in therapy, and I think she'll testify about that tomorrow. I'm very proud of the way that she handled herself today." And listen, I'm glad that she has her lawyer there. I'm glad that she has her husband, Alex Fine, there. I'm very glad to hear that she's in therapy. That's so important because I can't imagine everything that this girl went through, especially being so young that she met him when she was 19. And I feel like that's such an MO of men who, want to have this power dynamic over these young women. You know what I mean? Like, it's disgusting how they use their power and their money and their influence to bring, such harm on these girls. Like, I'm so glad that she's in therapy, man. Especially, like I said, with her being pregnant and, this just being such a vulnerable time and she's having to relive this on the stand in front of everybody. I hope that she has her therapist there with her in New York City. The article goes on and says the families of Combs and Ventura were present in the courtroom throughout her testimony. So during a break in the afternoon session, Sean Diddy Combs caught the eye of one of his twin daughters who made a heart shape with her hands, and he returned the gesture and caught the eye of his mother and blew her a kiss. His mother blew a kiss back to him. So I'm hoping that's what the like I said, the sketch artist is showing in that bottom picture there, that he's not that crazy and diabolical to, make the heart gesture toward Cassie. But again, this is Diddy we're talking about, so I don't know. Who knows? Combs' daughters stayed in the court throughout the day proceedings. And during the testimony, Cassie Ventura's husband, Alex Fine, and her female cousin and her brother stayed in the courtroom throughout the testimony as well. When Ventura spoke about the freak-offs during her testimony, including the explicit details, her tone was matter-of-fact and almost devoid of emotion. Her tone changed when she reflected on her feelings and when she cried about, while speaking about how terrible and horrible the alleged harm made her feel. The judge denies the request to show the explicit videos and images in court. Now, see, this is something that I keep hearing different things about, like whether or not they're going to show the actual freak-offs. Some people have said that they are. Some people said that they're not. So this is a CNN article. If I find, an update, I'll definitely come and let you guys know. But for right now, they said that the judge has denied the news organization's application to have the explicit videos and images shown in court. He told the prosecution and defense to submit any additional letters to complete the record, but says something would have to change his mind. He agreed with the prosecutor's argument that showing the explicit videos of the intimate nature of the encounters would re-victimize Cassie Ventura as well as the quote-unquote Jane Doe. He says, I'm not seeing any case that would suggest in any way, shape, or form that images or videos of these type of acts that are alleged to be harmful in an intimate way would be required to be shown in open court when they pose the obvious risk of re-victimization, especially when those individuals are testifying about these incidents. The judge also previously denied the media's alternative suggestion to allow 3 pool reporters to view the images and videos. So I don't know. I guess he hasn't changed his mind yet. So court is adjourned for the day. That was 5 hours ago. So Cassie Ventura will continue her testimony tomorrow, answering more questions from the prosecutors. Prosecutor Emily Johnson said that she expects to finish her direct examination tomorrow, but she also feels like she needs half the day. The judge advised the jurors to turn off the notifications from the news organizations on their phone to ensure that they don't see anything about the case. Ventura testified that Combs harmed her physically too many times to count. So after the jury was shown the hotel surveillance video showing Sean Diddy Combs pretty much, harming and beating Cassie Ventura, prosecutor Emily Johnson asked her how many other times that Combs had he beat her in that way. She says, too many to count. I don't know, Ventura testified. Are there occasions where you tried to fight back when Sean hit you? The prosecutor asked. No, Ventura said. The jury is viewing the hotel surveillance footage again. This is at least the 5th time. Wow, okay, that the jury has watched Sean Diddy Combs harm Cassie Ventura on the surveillance footage in the hotel hallway. Listen, I mean, if it takes 5 times, I'm sure that they have probably seen or at least heard about it before they became the jury members. But I feel like that's really what is going to be the key in this case, and really, send it home for the jury, especially if they're watching it 5 times. Wow. Okay. Ventura said the Combs hit her, and she said, I ran out as fast as I could. So Cassie Ventura said that they were having a freak off in the hotel room when Sean Diddy Combs and an escort in the 2016 altercation happened in the hotel in Los Angeles. She says, I'm not sure what happened, but I got hit by Sean and I had a black eye. At that point, all I could think about was getting out of there safely. She said, I had my premiere and I didn't want to mess it up, so I left. She said that the escort was in a separate room in the hotel suite when Combs hit her. After it happened, she said that she grabbed her belongings and ran out as fast as I could. Ventura ran out of the room when Sean Combs was in the shower barefoot with her sneakers still in her bag. It was the fastest way, she testified. The jury is now seeing the text messages between Ventura and Combs. So the jury viewed a text thread between Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie Ventura from March 5th, 2016. Remember that the surveillance footage also showed that the altercation at the hotel was also dated March 5th, 2016. Ventura said that the conversation happened just before she had her big movie premiere. She testified that Combs wanted to plan a freak off and she didn't want Combs to be angry if she said no, but she also didn't want to compromise herself before the premiere. So the analysis says that Cassie Ventura's testimony could be an empowering moment for her. Cassie Ventura has been testifying about her experience as the former long-term girlfriend of Sean Diddy Combs during his trafficking and racketeering conspiracy trial, painting a picture for the jury of the harm that she faced throughout their relationship. It is clearly a very emotional moment, CNN's Lisa France said, but I also think that on some levels, this may be an empowering moment for her. France called back to the civil lawsuit that Ventura filed in 2023 against Combs, in which she alleged that Combs arred her in 2018 and subjected her up to years of repeated harm, physically and otherwise, over the course of their relationship. Combs has denied the allegations. To actually have her speaking these words and expressing what she had outlined in a civil suit within weeks of giving birth and having to recount this, France said, it's an example of Ventura having a moment to own her own narrative and be able to allow people to hear directly from her what she says happened to her. France adds that she thinks that this is an extremely profound moment, not only for her, but for other people who have made such allegations and who are victims of such harm, both intimately and otherwise. Combs and Ventura settled Ventura's lawsuit the day after it was filed. So she says that it got violent and I chose to leave. Sean followed me in the hallway by the elevators. He grabbed me up, threw me down to the ground, kicked me, and tried to drag me back to the room. And he took my stuff. So they asked her about the substances that she was taking, and one of them is called Blue Dolphin. So Cassie Ventura testified today that she took illegal substances during the freak-offs with Sean Diddy Combs, including a version of Molly called Blue Dolphin. MDMA, or also known as Molly, is part of a class of psychoactive illegal substances that produce experiences of emotional communion, relatedness, and openness. Some users report having less of an urge to eat, drink, or sleep, contributing its use as a party drug. The illegal substance is taken orally, usually in tablets or capsules, and may be made in different strengths or combined with other illegal substances. Many manufacturers, like, do people create this stuff? Like, are there manufacturing plants for it? I thought that this was like lab grown. I don't know. I'm not a pharmacist or a street pharmacist, so I don't know. But it says many manufacturers create their tablets in specific colors and stamp them with certain symbols as a way of branding their product, building confidence in the contents and increasing their appeal to users. Not building confidence in their brand. CNN, okay, they're doing a lot. Popular symbols include alligators, trees, doves, and dolphins, as well as logos like Chanel, Honda, and Superman. Not Honda, child. If somebody gives you anything with a Honda logo on it except a Honda, throw that mess in the trash. Blue Dolphin is a blue MDMA tablets stamped with a dolphin symbol. She says, I never wanted anyone to see me like that. So she asked she asked Combs to delete the videos. Cassie Ventura said that Sean Diddy Combs began recording the freak-offs and the performances pretty early on in the first year. She testified that at first they were recorded on a video camera and later they were recorded on both his and her electronic devices. That is so wild. Because when you think about how far technology has come, just as a side note, because again, remember, she met him when she was 19, but they first started with video cameras. And I remember, video cameras, they were really popular, especially back like in the 90s and the early 2000s. Of course, now everybody has a phone and it's commonplace. I haven't seen a video camera in almost, like over a decade. But now they've moved from video cameras to her phones. It's wild to think about how far we've come and when it comes to advancement in technology. She said there really wasn't a conversation before he began recording. Sean brought out a camera and set it up, she testified. Ventura said that she would later delete the videos on her devices when she saw them because they were humiliating and disgusting. She testified that she frequently asked Combs to delete the videos he had as well, particularly because his staff members had access to his devices. And she says, I never wanted anyone to see me like that. Ventura describes the pattern that most freak-offs followed. She said they followed a similar pattern. It was established pretty early on that during the freak-offs that Sean enjoyed a lot of conversation and describing. She says that a freak-off would typically start with oil and touching. After that, she said the participants would engage in oral, intimate acts before progressing to being intimate in other places in your private areas. It was a gradual process, she said. Ventura said that she often would ask Combs if they could move to the next act in the pattern. She said she wanted to speed up the process. But he was controlling the whole situation. He was directing it, she said. Cassie Ventura, it just says she's back after a break. I'm just trying to get through this article. It's actually really long, so I'll link it for you guys. But I want to get to the most important parts. So the attorney explains why Ventura's testimony is extremely important in multiple states. Okay. So the prosecutors are trying to use Cassie Ventura's testimony to prove that the crimes that Sean Diddy Combs is accused of happened in multiple states, which gives the federal government jurisdiction. In order for the case to be brought to federal court, prosecutors have to be able to show that the alleged crimes occurred across state lines. Combs' former girlfriend testified that some of the escorts participated in freak-offs in multiple states. She said that she would also tell Combs' travel agent that she would need to arrange travel for new staff members when she needed to fly an escort in for an encounter. In order for the federal court to have jurisdiction over this, or the prosecutors, they have to be able to show that there was either enticing, harboring, transporting, or advertising, and it traveled in interstate commerce. Ventura said the freak-offs were held at both her and Combs' house. In addition, in hotels in New York City, Miami, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Turks and Caicos, and Ibiza. Ventura said that she took all types of illegal substances to disassociate and numb herself. Cassie testified that she would use illegal substances at every freak-off, and she took Mary Jane, mushrooms, and Molly. For me, it was disassociative and numbing. I couldn't imagine myself doing any of that without having some kind of buffer or just a way to not feel what it really was. Combs provided the illegal substances, and sometimes his staff would drop them off. You guys remember his assistant, Christina, and then also the mule that I did a video about. His name was Brendan, I think. I did a separate video about him. but they would always have that little black pouch. So the staff would drop them off as well, she said. She said someone would drop off the illegal substances to me wherever I was. She testified that she took more illegal substances every few hours during a freak off when the high would wear off. Some escorts participated in the freak offs in multiple states. So prosecutor Emily Johnson is showing some of the escorts, showing some of the photos of some of the escorts who participated in the freak offs. Some of those pictured participated in those freak offs in multiple states, Cassie Ventura testified. Ventura said that the escort's travel was sometimes coordinated by her, sometimes by a travel agent. I wonder if they're going to subpoena the travel agent. That would be interesting. For Sean Diddy Combs' company, and sometimes by the escort themselves. Ventura testified that she would tell Combs' travel agent that she needed to arrange travel for a new staff member when she needed to fly in an escort for a freak off. Ventura says that Combs wanted her to check if an escort was a cop. So Cassie described how she would vet a new escort if they never used them before. Sean wanted me to clarify if the person was a cop. I learned that this whole situation was not legal, Ventura said. Wow. Escorts were paid up to $6,000, Ventura says. So she says that the escorts were typically paid between $1,500 and $6,000 after the freak offs. She often handed them the money, although it was provided by Sean Diddy Combs. Sometimes the cash was brought in to the location by Combs' security. The escorts were almost always men, with a few exceptions, according to Ventura. So that's key, and that's important as well, because they needed to pin this to Diddy and having him give the escorts the money, right, for payment rendered, for services rendered, I should say. But since the money came from Cassie, even though it was given by Sean, I wonder how that's going to play out as well. But that's a key piece in her testimony. Ventura explains how she found male escorts at Combs' direction. Cassie Ventura testified that Sean Diddy Combs tasked her with finding escorts for the freak offs and noted that Combs had very specific requirements for the men. She would find the escorts by responding to ads on Craigslist and Backpage at Combs' direction. The jury is now reviewing a text message conversation between Ventura and a man that she would facilitate escorts. He would send her photos of the men that they could hire. I usually show them to Sean to see if that was a person of interest for a freak off. Sean had to approve the escort, she testified, and I definitely had to show him. Ventura said that she would talk with the escorts before they participated to try and make them more comfortable. I would usually say that my husband is into something called voyeurism and he likes to watch me with another man. It was just like a basic conversation I had with most of the escorts, and from there, I would get a feel if they were willing to do it or not. Ventura said that Combs would usually be in the other room during these conversations, but he would be able to hear them. And I'm seeing throughout this article that they gave her plenty of breaks, so that's really good. Ventura's testimony about power dynamics between her and Combs speaks to the coercion allegation. So Ventura spent the afternoon testifying in part about the power dynamic between her and her former boyfriend, Sean Diddy Combs, as it relates to the intimate performances known as freak offs, which Ventura testified that she felt like she could not say no to. It got to a point where I felt like I didn't even have much of a choice. I didn't know what no could be or what no could turn into. And she was probably scared for her life as well, especially after him beating her so viciously on that video. The prosecution's focus on the power dynamic during Ventura's testimony is about consent and whether or not she was on board with it or whether she was coerced. She says, and so I think that the prosecution, what they're attempting to do is to establish that because of the power dynamic, because she felt like she could not say no, that she ultimately had to say yes. So this is a legal analyst for CNN, Joey Jackson. As a result of that, Jackson also added that now you have coercion, now you have inducement, and now you're compelling her to engage in this, even if she did not explicitly say no. Prosecutors alleged that Combs created a criminal enterprise using his business empire where he engaged in ST trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, obstruction of justice, and he's accused of coercing at least 3 women, including Ventura, to engage in these intimate acts with him called freak-offs. Jackson says that he thinks that the defense may argue that Ventura did not explicitly indicate that she wouldn't participate. So she did so by helping to arrange, helping to orchestrate, and organize the freak-offs for almost a decade. Ventura says that it was disgusting, it was too much, and it was overwhelming. Cassie Ventura testified that the freak-offs orchestrated by Sean Diddy Combs became disgusting and overwhelming. She told the jury how at times, they're talking about the urination again. At times, Combs himself would urinate on her or demand an escort to do so. So we already went over that. The hotel rooms were trashed after the freak-offs. So she said that they would typically be trashed. She would try to clean it up a little bit, and typically they would leave a good tip for the housekeeping staff. But many times, one of Sean Diddy Combs' staff members would go in the room and clean it up some more. Combs was often charged by the hotels for the damages. She recalls hearing Combs' staff members take calls from the hotels about the matter. One specific time, Ventura recalled that the Intercontinental Hotel in New York charging Combs a really high number for damage to the hotel room. Ventura details how Combs introduced them to use baby oil. Cassie Ventura testified that they used quite a bit of baby oil in the freak-offs because Sean Diddy Combs wanted them to be quote-unquote glistening. Ventura said that Combs would instruct her to apply more oil if he felt like she didn't have enough on. Ventura said that they used somewhere around 10 large bottles of baby oil per freak-off. That's 10 large? Like every session? That's crazy. One time there was a baby pool filled with baby oil. Ventura testified, Combs told her to get in the pool to cover herself in the oil. She testified that she did what she was told because she didn't feel like she could say no. If that's something that Sean wanted to happen, then that's what was going to happen. There wasn't any other way around it. When they ran out of lubricant during a freak-off, how are you going to run out of 10? Oh my gosh. Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to get off track. But when they ran out of lubricant during a freak-off, Ventura said that they would call someone on Combs' staff at the hotel or the hotel desk to bring them some more. Combs would call an assistant himself or direct Ventura to call them. Law enforcement seized more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant during searches of Combs' home in Miami and Los Angeles. And you guys remember that. That was all over the blogs. Combs would use aliases like Frank White or Frank Black for hotel rooms. So those were his 2 names, Frank White or Frank Black, where they would have freak-offs in the hotel rooms. If she booked the rooms, she often used the alias Jackie Star. Ventura said that the freak-offs were held at both her and Combs' houses, in addition to the hotels in New York City, Miami, Los Angeles, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Ibiza, and Turks and Caicos. Sometimes she would book the hotel rooms, and other times Combs' staff would, she said. His staff would provide the materials such as the baby oil, lubricant, and the condoms. She said that Combs could be a scary person. She says that Diddy would get upset and he could be very scary and be violent. She said that the way that she would alter her appearance for a freak-off, she would regularly get a wax, a tan, get her nails done, and her nails had to be painted white or with a white French tip per Combs' instructions. And she described also getting piercings at Combs' suggestion. She said that she would wear see-through or netted outfits and extremely high heels. Ventura says that Combs wanted her to call him by her grandfather's nickname. She says early on in the relationship, Sean Diddy Combs wanted Cassie to call her by her grandfather's nickname. He asked me what I called my grandfather, and I said Pop Pop. And Ventura testified, she says, I thought it was weird at the time, and now I just feel like it was disrespectful. He called her Cece, which stood for Cassie Combs. He was with this girl a whole decade and didn't even think about putting a ring on her finger, or Kim Porter, or Misa, or anybody else who, was with him intimately. He's a piece of work. The moment that Ventura broke down in tears on the stand, this is where they have it. The sketch artist shows her crying in front of that prosecutor, Emily Johnson. Cassie Ventura broke down in tears when prosecutor Emily Johnson asked her what she enjoyed, if anything, about their freak offs. She says, the time that I spent with him. She added that she felt like it was the only time that she could get with him. She says, I felt disgusted, I was humiliated. And she says that I don't have the words to put together about the time, how horrible I really felt, and I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody about it. Ventura said that she tried to gently bring up not wanting to do the freak offs with Combs. She says, I didn't want to make him upset or angry with me for even sharing it, but I would just tread lightly when I brought it up. Sometimes I would email him about it. I just didn't want anything bad to happen. She says that she described staying awake for days at a time against her will. She says that when asked how long she could stay awake, she said that the illegal substances honestly helped, that she would take Molly or cocaina, Coca-Cola, that Combs gave her. Ventura says that Combs would decide when the freak-offs would end. He'd tell her at some point a session would be the last one, and she'd think to herself, hopefully this will be the absolute last one. Ventura says that Combs directed every detail, including the lighting. That's interesting, the lighting. She says she was about 22 years old when Combs asked her to have her first freak off. She asked why did she agree to the freak off. She says, good question, I just want to make him happy. She said that she did it because, she wanted to make him happy, and she took the Molly and drank. And she says that she took the illegal substances that Combs gave her before they started. She says that Combs managed every detail, even what she wore, including masks, to disguise their appearances. She says every freak off was directed by Sean. Like, he knew specifically where he wanted everyone to be, the lighting and such. So for the first session, we ended up getting closer and closer, and eventually had to put the oil on each other. She said that she had mixed emotions after the first freak off. She says that, she was so consumed with the illegal substances, there wasn't too much of a feeling. But she recalls feeling dirty and confused, but she felt like it's okay because he's really happy with me. She says that she interacted with several of Sean Diddy Combs' assistants and staff during their relationship, and that's an important part of the government's effort to prove that Combs engaged in racketeering, according to a former prosecutor. Julie Grant, a court TV anchor and former prosecutor, said that Ventura's testimony helps paint a picture for the jury of the organization. Because I was wondering how they were going to get him on RICO charges. So this is how they're going to get him on a RICO charge, the racketeering. She says how many people worked for Diddy and might have been involved in the allegations. Combs has pled not guilty to the charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. But according to the U.S. Justice Department, to convict someone of racketeering, prosecutors have to prove 5 different criteria. One of them is that a criminal enterprise existed and that there was a pattern of racketeering behavior. So Grant said that Ventura can identify instances where she witnessed other people working as agents for Combs and doing things on his behalf. That does all of this to the charge of racketeering. So in the indictment, the government alleges that Combs was using his business enterprises and having people who work for him in various capacities help him exert that power and control to force women like Cassie to engage in unwanted intimate behaviors. Here are some of the things that she said about Combs' staffers so far. That if Combs disapproved of her, he had his staff take her belongings. Ventura testified that in the 3 years of their relationship with Combs, one of the assistants would regularly help her with her finances. And she said that she had to talk to another assistant on a daily basis about everything from scheduling to what kind of mood that Combs was in. She said that she was first shocked when he mentioned voyeurism. She says that Diddy presented it to her within the first 6 months or a year of them dating as a fantasy that he had. That he wanted to see me with another male having intimate relations. He also brought up swinging. And she said that she was shocked when he first told her about the voyeurism. She said, I didn't know how to react. I didn't want to upset him because, that would scare me. So I said, if there's anything outside of okay, let's try it, she said. Ventura also recalls Combs' rivalry with Suge Knight. Y'all remember that, right? That's old school. When he was at the Source Awards and Suge was like, all in the videos, dancing. He's like, if you don't want that, come to, his record label. I can't say it on YouTube, but y'all know it ends with Roe. So Cassie says that Sean Diddy Combs was rivals with former rap mogul Marion Suge Knight, the former unalive Road Records, a co-founder who was sentenced to prison after for the unaliving of a man during a hit-and-run incident on the set of the movie Straight Outta Compton. One time, she and Combs had a freak off at one of his homes in Los Angeles when one of his security guards came in and mentioned that Knight was at a diner close by. They quickly packed up and drove down there, she said. I was crying and I was screaming, don't do anything stupid. I was just really nervous for them. I didn't know what it meant or what they were going to do. Ventura describes seeing cash, jewelry, tapes, and pow-pows in Combs' safe. She says that he had a safe in almost every one of his homes and that she would occasionally get access to them for money or something else. She said there was always cash and jewelry, sometimes tapes, SD cards from cameras to pow-pows, depending on the safe. Ventura also testified that she saw the handheld pow-pows in Combs' residence in New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and New Jersey. The prosecutor asked Ventura about her relationship with Combs' assistants. She said that she testified in the 3 years of their relationship with Combs, one of his assistants would regularly help Ventura with her finances. I'm wondering if that's Christina. That probably will most likely be Christina. Y'all remember from Tyler Perry's Medea where it was a diary of the mad black woman? She's like, Christina's gone. I haven't seen Christina at all. I wonder if she's going to get subpoenaed because otherwise Christina probably is gone. Ventura said that she spoke to another assistant on a daily basis about everything from scheduling to what kind of mood Combs was in. She knew a lot about my personal things. Ventura said that if Combs disapproved of her, his staff would take away her belongings. I would get my car taken away. I would get kicked out of the house, my apartment. I had jewelry taken away. It was very random depending on how he felt. See, and that's why you have to have your own. I couldn't imagine having somebody, have that much power or access over my life. She says that there were some times where Combs would personally take electronics from her. It's almost like he felt like he was her father, like he was grounding her. You know what I mean? Taking away her electronics. Like she was a grown woman. This is ridiculous. Other times his security personnel did it. She'd eventually get the items back. It depended on how long I was being punished for, I guess. Sean would give them back to me if I would go to his house. She says my self-worth took a hit. She says Combs was very involved in my physical appearance and started making comments about the way that she looked almost immediately in their relationship. She says appearance was very important to him. She talked about her hair and her nails. She said we had tons of conversations about my body at the time. This included discussions about breast implants and keeping my shape a certain way. My self-worth took a hit for the entirety of the relationship, just trying to be and trying to establish who I was, who I wanted to be, and who I was allowed to be. Ventura said that she spent a big chunk of her life recovering from days long freak offs. She said the freak offs could last from 36, 48, or 72 hours, forcing her to spend a big chunk of her life recovering from the illegal substance use and dehydration. She says the freak offs became a job where there was no space to do anything else but to recover and just try to feel normal again. She said the longest freak off continued for 4 or more days with some breaks. That is crazy, right? I couldn't even imagine. I mean, like just how sore she would feel and how horrible that would be. She says that she didn't release 9 albums included in her record deal. She says that although she recorded hundreds of songs, while some of them got released, some didn't see the light of day. And she didn't release 9 of the albums that were included in her record deal. She was asked that not releasing the albums would affect her financially, and her career was stifled. And he probably didn't want her to have any access to any money or any real capital because he didn't want her to get away from him. She says that she moved to Los Angeles to be closer to Combs because she was in love. She says that she moved to LA from New York to follow Sean Diddy Combs. She wanted to be near his kids, so she went too. She says, I moved because I was in love and I wanted to be near him. Combs paid her rent during her time in New York, and Combs paid for the places that she lived. He had his own keys that he used whenever he wanted. Combs lived right down the block from Ventura's apartment in California. She said that she could walk or drive about 3 minutes to his home. She says later she bought her own house in Studio City because she wanted that freedom for herself. She says, I wasn't getting it in a lot of other ways, and there was no fight. And that's good, right? Like I said, it's always good to have your own. So I'm proud of her for that. She says that she thought that they were in a monogamous relationship. She says, but she soon realized that they were not. I didn't get that he was Puff Daddy and Puff Daddy had many women. She described how jealous she felt about seeing him with other women. He likes the company of women, and I could just learn to, I could really learn that over time, despite what he would tell me is just between us. He made me feel like we were in a monogamous relationship more often than not. It was really me figuring out that we were not. He expected that of me, so I guess I assumed it was the same. And that's the thing about people who are controlling like that, like they'll hold you to this ridiculously high standard where it's almost impossible to meet. And the standard that they have for themselves is under the basement, it's ridiculous. She says that he would check in on what music she was working on and give her busy work on projects that were never released. She said the busy work, the way I interpreted it, was just control over what I was doing every minute of the day. And she says when she didn't respond to Combs, he would call her constantly and sometimes send someone, usually his security, to check on her. She says that his mood swings were different. Um, she says that she talked to Diddy all day, throughout the day. And sometimes she wouldn't answer his calls or his messages right away. He would become an incessant caller, or he would have his staff call her until she answered. There were times where his assistants or personal security personnel would locate her for him in person. Prosecutor Emily Johnson asked Ventura to give her an example of how Combs's moods impacted her. And she said the Combs's moods swung different ways quite a bit. She says the most complicated and greatest examples are the harm, because I felt that at certain times when I knew it wasn't even about me and you make the wrong face, the next thing I knew, I was getting hit in the face. She says that she initially was enamored by Combs, but eventually she saw a different side of him. She says that she broke ties with her management company, which also managed her former boyfriend. She says that after their Miami trip, that's when she fell in love with Combs. She says she traveled with him everywhere. They were in studios, and she was just like his shadow for a while. She said that it was her first adult real relationship. And she noted that Combs's lifestyle was much different than her own. He had assistants at his beck and call. He could get anything done very quickly. He had respect from everyone. Notice she said that everybody respected him, but it seems to me like he did not respect anybody. He traveled quite a bit. She said that she was just enamored with him. But she said that he was also very controlling over my life and the things that I wanted to do, but there was still love there. Control was everything from the way I looked to what I was working on to who I was speaking to. She said it was just an all around thing at a certain point. So Cassie said that she also kept the broken laptops and iPads and the phones out of fear that the material would become public because she knew what was on them. She says that Sean is a really polarizing person. He can be, very charming, so that it's hard to be able to decide in that moment what you need when he's telling you what he wants. But she says that she didn't know how to refuse the freak offs. She says, I didn't feel like I had much say in it. She says she also felt a responsibility. She said it was like him sharing something with me. I was confused and nervous, but also loved him very much and I wanted to make him happy. I knew it wasn't something that I wanted to be doing, especially as regularly as it became. But again, I was in love and I wanted to make him happy. She says it got to the point where I felt like I didn't have much of a choice, that I didn't know what no could be or what no could turn into. And that Combs controlled a lot of her life from her career to the way that she dressed. So um, she talks about the harm that she had physically. And she says that, the prosecutor asked her, how frequently some of the physicalities with her during the relationship, and she said it was too frequently. She suffered injuries, including knots on her forehead, busted lips, and bruises all over her body. So listen, I'm going to link this article because I want you guys to read it for yourself. It is fairly long, but I wanted you guys to get Cassie's testimony. So, like I said, I'm proud of her that she was able to do that. Tomorrow, she's going to take the stand again. So, I'll give you guys an update for that. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk with you in the next one. Take care, Aces. Bye.